What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActionMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm going to talk about Hundreds of Beavers. This is the indie sensation that's been sweeping America. It's currently available for you to watch across several free streaming platforms, including Freevee, the Roku channel, and Pluto TV, at least as of my recording of this video. So you can literally just sign into a service and watch this right now. It was given to me for my consideration. I did technically ask, is there an available English audio description track for this film? I would prefer that. There is not one, so this is fun. So, I did grow up with Sight, and I think when we're kids, even before we're shown sort of the older stuff, I don't know. I guess if you were an older kid, you were shown a lot of maybe like Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, Charlie Chaplin shorts from back in the day, relying heavily on physical comedy, prop comedy. But even regular kids, we still get, Looney Tunes, Sylvester and Tweety, and Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry is probably such a great example of something that's been running for what was their first show, like 80 years ago, 90 years ago, something. And they don't speak, and their whole thing is visual, physical comedy. And I think probably for a lot of congenitally blind people, Tom and Jerry has just been lost to the ether of, lack of audio description, just like that. There's a giant bottle that's full of like almost everything that doesn't have audio description. Some of it is like marginally followable without audio description, but a lot of it is not, especially stuff like Tom and Jerry, which, unless you're there to listen to the soundtrack, is basically unwatchable for a blind, and depending on how low your vision is, low vision audience. So, it wouldn't be the only thing in this genre. I am very nostalgic, and I love going back through and watching things from my childhood. And I notice things that I watch, even like Ren and Stimpy, which is a little bit more my childhood. I grew up with, Snick on Saturday nights and watching Ren and Stimpy and not realizing originally that was made for a much older audience, but they toned it down for Nickelodeon. And not getting all the references and everything in that. And it's funny how we were shown that as kids. And but a lot of that is prop humor. A lot of that is being able to show you something in the way something is animated. It's very visual, and trying to go back and watch it now, the nostalgia doesn't work. It can't bring it brings like certain images back for me, but doesn't bring them all back. It doesn't bring back an entire episode. It's really hard to sit there and watch Ren and Stimpy and be like, that was a great experience. Whereas some other shows that have a little bit more leaning towards a basis in what the dialogue is saying, shows like Doug and Rugrats that came along with Ren and Stimpy, they're a little bit easier to follow because of the dialogue. Why am I saying all this? I haven't talked about Hundreds of Beavers yet. There's not much I can say about Hundreds of Beavers. So, when I started growing up, I was introduced in my film knowledge to Charlie Chaplin and some of his early works through stuff that was kept on VHS at the library. And I really loved his Tramp. I really loved, just his look. Just the way Charlie Chaplin looked, the way he spun the cane, the way he had that sort of like penguin walk. Everything about him was funny. And it was a live action dude basically creating like human Tom and Jerry for me. Like if you watch cartoons first and then you watch Charlie Chaplin, it's a little bit like that. It's a little bit like, wait a minute, this guy is managing to pull off what the cartoons are doing, but he's doing it as a human. And it's funny. So I was always a big fan of Charlie Chaplin from the beginning, probably even more so than his contemporaries. Like Well, I'm familiar with Buster Keaton. I can't really say I ever got into Buster Keaton. So, um, and, and again, some of the aforementioned Laurel Hardy and Abbott and Costello, Three Stooges, and stuff like that. It's like I all tangentially understand who they are, but representationally from that period, from a certain style of comedy, Charlie Chaplin is probably it for me. Um, he actually does some really strong work when he starts speaking too. I think his Monsieur Verdot is really underrated. Um, but nevertheless, we must eventually talk about Hundreds of Beavers at some point. So they always say they don't make them like they used to, and I I'll give them credit here because that's what they're trying to do. Like, even though I can't see to understand what it is that they're doing, I've heard enough, read enough, know enough that that is what this is trying to do, is bring back sort of an older style of comedy that isn't reliant upon punchlines written in dialogue. You know, it isn't leaning towards a specific talent where a lot of comedies are written for a specific person. You know, you're going to go watch the latest Eddie Murphy movie or Will Ferrell movie, Jim Carrey movie, Adam Sandler movie, you know, go on and on and on and on. It's not that. This is just a funny concept about a guy in the 19th century who has some sort of mystical powers and has to fight off hundreds of beavers. So the loose way of putting it through there. And it's written and directed by the same guy. And I can't really comment on either because I can't see the film. But what I will say is it's a cool concept for sighted audiences to get excited about again. So even though I'm not included, it's one of those rare occasions where I'm like, I really don't want to root against this film because I don't think there's much like it out there. And to kind of bring that back around, to kind of say, you know, hey, look at what we can do. We can do this style of comedy in 2024. Nobody else is really doing it. Why can't we do it? You know, I mean, the closest thing you get are the boys of Jackass, and that's just not the same thing. I'm sorry. Like, if Charlie Chaplin knew that one day the boys of Jackass would be the answer to his equation, I think he'd quit. I think he would have stopped. He's like, no, this is not what we intended. You know, Mel Blanc just stops like doing cartoons. He's like, nope, this is not what we want. Um, so yeah, it's at least a narrative feature version instead of just the reality of real guys putting themselves into moderately real danger for our enjoyment. But it doesn't have audio description, so I like all of the humor is gone. And the funny thing is, I think about this film and I'm like, oh man, this is like an audio description writer's playground. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the film where somebody can just go wild because there's almost no dialogue. I believe there were 2 times where they kind of sung a musical number, if to use that term lightly. Uh, just for lack of a better term. He says mush a couple times. Uh, Otherwise, there's some sound effects that maybe I wouldn't trample because they're direct reaction to something. But for the most part, this is a little like Sasquatch Sunset, which thank God had audio description because that movie would be right where this one is. Where the movie doesn't have any dialogue, so it's all just sort of sounds and nature, and luckily that movie has an exceeding amount of audio description to bring it all together, to bring us in on the experience, and so that way our loved ones don't have to leave us outside when they go into the theater. Like, sorry. You can come in if you want and just like listen to the soundtrack, like buy a movie ticket for that. That's no. I'm actually kind of happy that it's on free streaming services because like I'm not even mad at it anymore because it's like nobody has to actually pay to see this. They're getting revenue from ad money. So at least, you know, I didn't pay to see it. You shouldn't have to pay to see it. It's on Freevee, Roku, and Pluto, which are all free streaming services. You just have to sign up for them. So and watch it with ads. Um, and then that's it. Like that's all you need to do. So if you wanted to sit there and try to figure out based on your level of vision, since I have like largely a blind audience, if this is right for you, then by all means, it's not like spending money on a VOD release and or money even on a subscription service. Um, so it doesn't hurt anybody at this point. It's just like a thing that, oh, well, we can't watch that. But honestly, most of the things on the Roku channel you can't watch because they don't really support audio description as much as they should. They are starting to support it for some of their originals, but they're not really going, but super concerned about going through the back catalog of titles. And Pluto has some audio description. Freevee has some audio description, but if we're being honest, both of those services could be doing better. So, yeah, it's not necessarily something that I'm like, I'm not really upset about it. And I did get to sit and listen to, it's about an hour and a half long. It has a score, so that was fun. It was like I was considering the score to Hundreds of Beavers for Best Original Score this year, or the sound design, right? Because I was able to hear that. So there are other elements here that weren't a complete waste of time because it's not a dead silent film. I've had worse experiences in movies before. I would say Skinamarink was just so weird to watch without audio description because it doesn't really have score, barely has sound design, and it has no linear purpose or anything in life. Like it just was weird. Uh, so this is not that. I mean, I enjoyed the score. It was just kind of like something playing in the background. I was like, oh, this is a happy, upbeat score. Kind of sounded like maybe something that might be a merry melody from that time period. But I can't talk critically about your film. I'm sorry. Like, I just cannot talk critically about the film. All I can say is it doesn't have audio description. Therefore, I have to parse out of it what I can, and you have no dialogue. So I'm really at a loss here. I mean, I'm really sort of at a place where I'm like, I don't know what to say about Hundreds of Beavers, except this, what I'm saying, which I wish your film did have audio description because I wish every film had audio description. That's just like sort of how I work, how I operate. I would be a bad. I didn't get to be on advisory committees and audio description and everything and working there by advocating, like, I don't know about, we don't really need accessible, no. I try to push for audio description as an accessibility tool because I think so many people assume it doesn't exist because more often than not, it doesn't. We usually have to aggregate. The fact that we have a list of titles of what movies have our audio described and where we can find them, like a green book for blind people finding movies, is very disconcerting. Like we have to keep a list and be like, oh yeah, oh well, I can watch that, but you can't watch it on that service. You have to watch it on this one. That's where it has audio description. Don't go over there. Go over here instead. So I would like to try to end that, but I only have just so much time on this earth, and it doesn't seem like most people care whether or not blind people have audio description or not. They're just, so, and it's not really the filmmaker's fault. I think and I've talked with other independent filmmakers. I just think they're not aware. It's one of those things where if you're an independent filmmaker, if you are not directly aware of accessibility that you're not using yourself, that you don't need, maybe you don't know anybody who has it, and you're sort of in the position to make the call to add audio description to your film, why would you naturally? Believe me, I was there. I was sighted, and I didn't walk around my whole day being a sighted person going, I wonder if blind people have enough accessibility today. Like, it's just not something you think about on a consistent basis unless you've made accessibility your thing. Um, and if you don't have a major studio behind you, which Hundreds of Beavers has been self-releasing, then there isn't anybody there to catch you. Because if you get bought up by Universal, I expect Universal to put audio description on you. That's when I get angry. Well, like, that is right now. This is me being pleasant and being cute and being like, oh, the Hundreds of Beavers people, they're very nice people. I'm sure that. And I do that with independent filmmakers because I really honestly don't know if they know, and they don't really have distributors that support that support uh, the funding to be able to audio describe all their titles. There are even bigger sort of like mini majors that don't even fully audio describe all the time. The fact that Neon didn't put audio description on Triangle of Sadness is just mind-boggling. Netflix not putting it on Roma when it gets the Best Picture nomination is just like, what the fuck? So yeah, there's still cases even within other within companies, little you know gaps where things have gotten through without audio description for some reason, even though they should. That in large part, when you land a major distribution deal, they'll put it on there. So yeah, I can't even be mad. It's self-distributed independent. I don't know if this director is even aware of what audio description is. I don't know if a blind person has ever tried to show up to hundreds of Beavers showing and been like, I can't see this. I mean, I'm doing this like at the end of the year. This movie's been out like all year. So I'm at the end of this thing, and I don't know what the motivation would be for them to do it now, except other than to just use their winnings, use their profits to just, I don't know, do the right thing and just make it accessible for everybody. But it's going to be kind of a pain in the ass because you have streaming services. You have to make sure that it follows. And if you don't have a distributor behind you to make sure that it's following your movie, I don't even conceptually understand what that's like. So I would say, at least, because I don't know what the deals would be with these streaming services, Freevee, Roku, Pluto, if you're going to be on it forever, if you made an audio description track that at least carried with your film onto VOD, where it can live forever, where presumably it would be forever available to rent on Apple and Prime, Fandango at Home, those places, you could put it on there, and then it would just live, and then you wouldn't have to worry about constantly checking on, well, our film moved streaming services, did the audio description move? And that's kind of what a distributor's for, but if you're self-distributing, that seems like a lot of work that realistically is just not going to happen. So the best thing is to try to get it on VOD slash if there is a physical media release of this, so that way there are more stagnant versions of the film, and you don't have to monitor it for the rest of your life. But either way, I'm sure blind people would like this. There are people all over the spectrum of vision in terms of where they are, and some people will be able to look at it a little bit and kind of follow it, and some people won't. I wasn't able to follow it. So, and I think there are people of different age groups who grew up with different things. Not everybody's born blind. A lot of people go blind, who would appreciate something like this and would appreciate audio, like well-made audio description for this. That is also the other thing, is well-made audio description for this. Like, your writer has to be good, because if you want those jokes to land, I know that's probably the biggest concern that the filmmakers would have with this, would be like, okay, so we want to trust an audio description narrator to do the whole film. And it's like, yeah, you do. because other films have done it. There are other films that have that have no dialogue, that are like fully audio described, or that have little to no dialogue and are fully audio described. John Woo's film from last year, that just escapes me, with Joel Kinnaman. That movie, Silent Night, has audio description all the way through. The Sasquatch Sunset has audio description all the way through. And those films have little to no audio description. I've even seen A Trip to the Moon with audio description. So, it's possible if you want it. So, but right now I can't grade Hundreds of Beavers, and technically, Hundreds of Beavers is unwatchable for a blind to visual audience. I gain nothing from watching this film except listening to the score, sound design, but I don't know that that's enough to give it some sort of like rating endorsement. It's not a film I think lacks value. I think it's cool what they did. I just wish I could be a part of it. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Sorry, this didn't swing better in the Beavers' favor, but I'll see you guys on the other side.